If we look at the constitutional framework, one under Article 246, both Parliament and the state legislatures have been given the simultaneous power to levy GST. In terms of Article 269A, on imports only the centre has the power to levy GST. And in terms of the constitutional amendment bill, they have also introduced what is known as a compensation cess. I'll come to that a bit later. But in addition to GST, there's going to be a levy of what is referred to as a compensation cess. Now, there has been what is known as a GST council which has been formed. Now, this GST council comprises of the Union Finance Minister, the Finance Minister of various states, and also key finance officials. They have been recommending the framework of GST, what are the rates to be adopted, and what is to be done. Why it is being done in such a manner is that they want the centre and the states to have the same manner of legislation, and everything will be similar. Even though there will be what is referred to as a dual GST, in effect it is going to be one singular law where everything is common across the board. So today if I look at VAT, VAT has different provisions. If I look at excise, excise has different provisions. I can't compare my provisions under excise law with the provisions under VAT law. Tomorrow, if I look at CGST, or the Central Goods and Services Tax Act, and SGST, or the State Goods and Services Tax Act, the provisions will be one and the same. Today, let us say I am a manufacturer. After I manufacture, I will sell my goods. When I manufacture, I will have to look at what the Excise Act says and the rules thereunder. When I sell my goods, if I sell on an intra-state basis or within the state, I will have to look at the State VAT Act. If I sell on an interstate basis, I will have to look at the CST Act. Therefore, as a businessman also, to comply with my chain of business activity, I will need to look at and understand 4-5 different legislations. What GST seeks to do is have a singular legislation, which is the Central Goods and Services Tax Act. Even though for states there is a State Goods and Services Tax Act, the provision for both the Central Act and the State Act will be the same. So for instance, if I look at section 130 of the Central Act, section 130 of the State Act will be the same. The power to levy rests with both the centre and the state. So let us say I make a supply transaction. The value of goods is ₹1,000. The tax rate will be 9% CGST plus 9% SGST. The tax base will be common. How I apply the levy will be common. Only what will differ is that out of the 18 rupees total tax I pay, for instance, 9 rupees will go to the central government and 9 rupees will go to the state government. So to do all this, first they needed to evolve a constitutional framework, and that is what they did by the constitutional amendment. The constitutional amendment happened last year in September 2016. And what they said is within 1 year of the constitutional amendment, GST has to be brought into force. That is why we are looking at GST being brought into force this year itself. Even though some industry bodies had raised opposition saying that they were not ready for GST, there is a constitutional mandate to bring GST into force by September 2017. And why they are bringing it into force in July 2017 itself is that if there continues to exist any issues, they can take care of it before September 2017. So this is the constitutional framework. Under the constitutional framework, both centre and state can levy. Only the centre can levy on certain transactions: import, export, and interstate supplies. Only the centre can levy tax. So in this background, let us move into the actual provisions of GST law and what does GST mean.